Today I want to talk about movies, in particular religious horror, which is kind of like it's not a new genre. It's an old genre, but it's kind of made like a new, resurgence, I guess you could say. And especially with movies like Sinners and Heretic, which I'm going to talk about both of those today. But the very first one that I could remember was actually a little movie by the name of The Exorcist. If you might have heard of that one, but I think that was probably the first one that I could remember was a religious horror movie. I'm gonna be driving, and I don't know if that's gonna be a problem or not, but I gotta multitask. But yes, Heretic, I think out of if I was to choose between Heretic and Sinners onto which one of these two was the better movie, I would say Sinners was better, because Heretic, although it asks good questions, it ultimately leads to nothing, and ultimately leads to the main antagonist of the movie, which is Mr. Reed. He doesn't really have an exact goal in mind. He doesn't really have an end goal per se, and I'm kind of left, thinking what his whole deal was. He was basically trying to get them to see the truth, I guess, or his truth. And after that, once they kind of realize what the truth was, at least one of them realizes what he wanted to get across. And after that, you start thinking about it. You're like, so why do you still have these people here? Why are they still being tortured? I don't really understand his goal other than getting his truth apart. Now, let's say it was like winning a debate. Okay, you won the debate. Now what? And that's pretty much how I feel about atheists, guys. Like, this movie kind of, with its its storyline and it not going nowhere towards the end, especially with Mr. Reed, I don't feel like there was nothing about Mr. Reed that he didn't give us anything, really. Like, to be honest, to me he didn't give us anything. He just kind of wanted to prove that religion is fake and that it's a form of control, right? And so we got to that, and we understood what he was talking about. I get what he was talking about. And I think the two young ladies in the movie understood the same thing I understood, and the point that he tried to get across. But then after that, we kind of get to this kind of like part of the movie where it's like, okay, we get it, so now what? Why are you still doing this? Like, you're still a weirdo. You're more weird than the Mormons, because these young ladies, they're Mormons, and they were sent out. Pretty much the plot is they were sent out, to preach the gospel of the Mormon Church. So they go out and they preach, right? And there's a lot of weird things about the Mormons, a lot of weird customs that they talk about, like magic underwear, polygamy, which is mostly weird to Americans, but historically, And to a lot of places around the world, polygamy is not that bad at all. But to Americans, it's very weird, right? And to me personally, I think Mormons, there's more other weird things that they believe that are way more weird than polygamy. Like, for example, magic underwear, like the whole soaking process, the fact that they believe certain people are evil because of the color of the skin. There's a lot of very weird beliefs that they have, and some customs as well, that surpass, in my opinion, polygamy. Because polygamy, like I said, throughout history and throughout most of history, most of the world practice some sort of polygamy. Monogamy is more of a more recent way of seeing marriage. And for a long time, marriage wasn't even a thing as well. Marriage was more of a rich people thing, and it was made to unite two clans together that were very powerful, and they could afford to do that. So, like, if it was a very rich clan or tribe, and they had like a queen, right? And in order to unite the two kingdoms and the two tribes, powerful tribes, they would have a wedding, and they would have the best, gowns and dresses and everything, all to show off, that they had the money, they had the cash to do so. It was mostly them showing off, their power to the other tribes and everything like that. So, and not just tribes, like clans, kingdoms, whatever you want to call it. It was just showing off. And in today's day and age, it's kind of the same thing. People are just trying to show off to the world and to the government their love, but it's vain, really, if you think about it. If you love somebody, you love somebody, and you gotta love somebody, But anyways, enough about that. Like the movie, getting back to the movie. So Mr. Reed pretty much is the typical, in my personal opinion, is the typical atheist. Now, I personally am not an atheist. I believe that there is a God. I believe that that He inspires, people to do things, and the more connected you are to God, the more you're able to accomplish, in my opinion. And that's, written throughout history. And I keep telling people when they tell me, that religion is bad, because a lot of people think that religion is bad, and that, I just saw a video talking about religious people are dumber than atheists. And I think that's, I think that's wrong, because if you look at throughout history what religion has done for mankind, and I'm talking about all religions. I'm not saying, only one religion. I'm just saying the belief in a higher power usually makes for better things, for better art, and for better ways and imagination to accomplish things. Like, for example, I'll give you my best example that I have is the pyramids, the Egyptian pyramids of Giza. These were created by religious people that believed in Ra, that believed in what's the other ones? My point is this: these people believed in these gods, and they believed that they had to build these temples and these pyramids for these gods to connect with the gods. And they believed that in their religion that they had to do these things. And they believed that in their religion that they had to do these things. And they believed that in their religion that they had to do these things. And they believed that in their religion that they had to do these things. And they believed that in their religion that they had to do these things. And they believed that in their religion that they had to do these things. And they believed that in their religion that they had to do these things. And they believed that in their religion that they had to do these things. And they believed that in their religion that they had to do these things. And they believed that in their religion that they had to do these things. And they believed that in their religion that they had to do these things. And they believed that in their religion that they had to do these things. And they believed that in their religion that they had to do these things. And they believed that in their religion that they had to do these things. And they believed that in their religion that they had to do these things. And they believed that in their religion that they had to do these things. And they believed that in their religion that they had to And then you go throughout all history. Even if we go further beyond the Egyptian religion, because some people believe the Egyptian religion was the first, but there's actually way more. There's the Sumerians. There's the very first religion, which was actually animism. They would build things too. They would draw things in cave. There's the intricate paintings that they would paint inside caves. They would have to travel deep into a cave and draw their depiction of what they believed God was. So you see all of these things that in my opinion you wouldn't be able to do if you didn't believe in a higher power and something bigger than you, something that's highly significant in that way. Göbekli Tepe is another one. Even if you go to the Renaissance and you see all the artwork that was made in those days, from people that believed, or at least wanted to connect with a higher being, they wanted to connect with God. So what I'm trying to say is that the more we disconnect from the source, which is God, the creator, the less art we have, the less beautiful our structures become. They become more rigid, they become more square-like. And if you look at where we are now, we have become way, way more just everything. Just look around you. Like there's very little art in anything that you see, really. I mean, you have to go back and look at nature in order to see art now, because nature still has complex structures and beautiful structures that give you awe and create wonder in the mind. But when it comes to today's structures, like for example, I was looking the other day at an Instagram post where it talks about how restaurants used to be a lot more beautiful, and that they had their own little theme that they follow. Like for example, Burger King was all about like the crown, right? And the crown was a big staple, big art piece of Burger King, and there was a big play place in the background, and you had all of this art stuff that went with Burger King. Or Taco Bell was made like a pueblo, like a little mission, pueblo mission, Spanish mission church or whatever. And it had like a little bell, and that was their theme, right? And you would go in there and everything would look kind of Mexican. They had like a Mexican themed restaurant. So, and I remember most of this because I'm a millennial, so I remember life before before the internet, and even Pizza Hut. You guys remember Pizza Hut? It was made like a hut, and you immediately recognized the roof of a Pizza Hut, and their whole theme was based around the hut. And so this guy was explaining how we don't have that anymore. We don't have these restaurants. They have become these kind of like too big to fail franchises. They have gone from loving the art that made them what they are, and discarding that and stripping that into a square. And most of these things, he was showing the differences between old school restaurants, fast food restaurants, and the restaurants of today, and how the art is missing. They're just a square now, and it's just sad. It's just sad to see that these companies, they don't really go the extra mile no more, because they start to realize fairly quickly that in order to to continue to move forward, especially in a capitalist society, they can't make any more money, because the only thing they could do is now pull back on the extra stuff that they did for the customer. Pull back on, now you got to pay for sauces. Now you don't get the sauce for free. You got to pay for it. Now the meals are smaller now, but they cost more. Um, there's no longer play places in a lot of these restaurants. Most of them used to have like a little play castles in the back to where kids could play. Um, it's just little changes like that, and they're pulling back on the art even of the signs. The bigger one's Cracker Barrel. Cracker Barrel was I think was the thing that started the whole thing, where Cracker Barrel used to have a, well, I'm not gonna say that, but they used to have a guy next to a barrel, right? It was funny. Uh, I mean, the joke's there, but I'm not gonna go for it because a lot of you are sensitive. And anyways, um, so it was a good logo, and I liked the logo. It was pretty obvious what they were talking about. And the food, it was all right. I mean, I'm not gonna say that it's the best. The only thing I would always get in Cracker Barrel was the pancakes and the breakfast. That's about it. Everything else, and sometimes I would get the mac and cheese. So I kept it simple. I don't like anything else in there. But anyways, the whole thing was that they took out the guy and they took out the barrel and they just said Cracker Barrel and they did a circle thing, right? Now, why would they do that? Now, it's very simple. The reason they're doing that is because they don't want to pay for the freaking art anymore. That's what happens in capitalist societies, hyper-capitalist societies, when they care only about the money, is that they start realizing that there's certain things that they really don't need. And what they need is something quick and easy to process through the brain, especially in today's day and age. Most people, they don't have good attention spans, and they need something that gets in and out and it's imprinted in your brain. That's why most of these franchises are moving to logos that are much more simple and that get the point across immediately, without having to do a lot of art, a lot of art involved. Now, the thing is, it's cool and everything. I like that in a sort of way, because I do believe that symbols, and drawing symbols, have power. Okay, not in the sense to where it's magic. In a sense, it is kind of like magic. So depending on what symbols I draw, I can get points across and manipulate what you think with the things that I draw. The better I could do that, the more power I have. And these companies know this. Similar to the magic of the past, to where they would do sigils and shit like that. It's similar to that. And so that's what they're doing, guys. And a lot of it is based on fear. That's what I always say is the enemy of art is fear. And I'm not saying, drawing about fear. That's different. Like for example, Stephen King, right? He talks about fear, right? And he explores fear, but he's not afraid of talking about it. You get what I'm saying? My thing is actual fear, like fear of losing money, fear of losing customers, fear of not making it to the next, generation, fear of losing your company, fear of dying, fear of God. Even like some people fear that they're gonna offend God with certain types of art, certain types of colors. All of these fears are what hinder you from creating, from being creative and having creativity. You go back to the Renaissance. A lot of these pictures of David and a lot of these things, some of them were naked, but it wasn't really that big of a deal until a lot of people started saying, "Oh, that's bad" or whatever. The reason for that though is because a lot of the artists, well, some of them were gay. Yeah, some of them were gay. Some of them weren't gay, but some of them were definitely gay. Um, and but anyways, getting back to Heretic, he talks about the whole franchise thing here, and the way he talks about it is through monopoly. Now, I can't go into it as the way he did it. He did it a little bit better than I could ever do it. But he says that the very first one was Judaism, and then after that, there came different remixes. Like, for example, Christianity, and then after Christianity, the Muslim religion. But they're all part of the same thing. And to him, that means that it's fake, right? And that means that it's not true. Now, to me, it does the opposite. To me, I look at all of religion as all of them as one big proof that there is a God. You see what I'm saying? So it's just we haven't how can I say this? We have an idea of it, but we can't grasp it fully and completely because we're only humans, and um and since we're connected to this realm, we have to see it through different lenses. But the message on all of these, most of these, are the same. And the other thing about religion is it throughout history it has gotten us out of different um eras. What I've noticed about religion is whether it was on purpose or whether it was divinely guided, it always helps the people that follow that religion in whatever their struggles are. And it also, when you study different religions, you realize that different religions crave and hunger for certain things. And for example, the Norse mythologies and their beliefs, epistemology, whatever you want to call it, was that when they died, they were gonna go to heaven, and they would practice warfare um, for as long as they had to until the big final war, Ragnarok, would happen again. Um, and that's pretty much their heaven. So basically, what you're telling me is, if you die in battle or as a soldier, whatever, then that means that you get to go to heaven and have more war. Is that what you're telling me? So these Viking people, they love the war so much that their heaven was literally more war. Okay, which is crazy, right? It's psycho mentality, but that's what they wanted. Like, that's what they wanted to do. You look at something like Christianity, and you read the Old Testament, the New Testament, and even some of the or all of the Gnostic books. Gospel of Thomas, Gospel of Mary, Judas, and all of the rest of them. You start to realize that they're very similar to the Greek philosophers. The thinkers of Greece. Especially Plato and the his story about the cave. Where there's a guy in a cave, and he only sees the shadows, and that's all he sees. And then this person escapes from the cave, and he sees the real world. And then he comes back to the cave, and he tries to tell the people, but the people don't believe him, and they want to kill him or whatever. This is basically Jesus. This is basically the story of Jesus. Now, Jesus knows about what's outside of the cave, what's outside of this world, right? And he wants to tell the world, hey, there's something bigger, better. And that something bigger and better is what the Greeks would call, the good, right? Or the all. Some people would call it the force of the good, the monad, God, right? The creator, the thing that sprungs out life everywhere in the universe, including in the world. It's very similar, to, and you got to understand, the Jews and the Greeks, they're around that same area of the Mediterranean, close to the Middle East, and even, kind of tipping over there to India, and this is a place where a lot of different types of minds would come together and think and explore different ideas. And not only that, but there's a lot of people passing and crossing through there, from China, from India, from, the Rome, and even beyond to the places like Great Britain, which at the time was just an island. So what I'm trying to say is that there was a lot of culture mixing and a lot of cultural different ideas coming together, to create a lot of religions. And even in the time of Jesus, the Jews, they were so separate. There were so many types of Jews. There was the Pharisees, there was the Sadducees, or Sadducees, and the ones where Jesus came from was the Nazarenes, or the the Nazarenes, the guys with the long hair, right? And these guys were more like monks, right? And the Pharisees were more like the modern day Jews with the little curls and stuff. And then you had the Samaritans were another people that claim rights to being, part of the chosen people, or the true chosen people. And you're going to see in the Bible where they argue about that, and they say, and this is what got Jesus in trouble, was that he didn't believe in in none of these religions. He believed that in order to find God, you had to look within, and you had to sacrifice yourself to God, because to him the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of heaven was within, and when you die, you become one with God, right? So, and this is what he would teach the whole time. This is his true teachings, was that, it wasn't like in one of the Gospels, I forgot which, I think it was the Gospel of Thomas. I keep saying Thomas, Jesus. He says, if someone comes and tells you God is in the sky, then the birds will precede you. If someone tells you God is in the sea, then the fish will precede you. If someone tells you God is here or there, and then he says, basically saying he's not there. The kingdom of heaven is within and outside of you. So meaning that the kingdom of heaven is you. You are the kingdom of heaven. And this is the same thing that he said when he told them, you saw me hungry and you gave me food. You saw me thirsty and you gave me water. You saw me naked and you clothed me. And he said, Father, when did we do this? And he was like, when you do it to these poor people, you do it to me. And not only do you do it to me, but you do it to God. So what does this mean? This means that everybody is God. Basically is what he's saying. He's saying, please take care of one another. Please feed each other, because we are all created by God. And because we're all created by God, we're all part of God. We're all God. And he repeats it again when they're about to crucify him. They were going to kill him. He said, do you not say that you are the Son of God? Or that you are God? And he said, yes, but I also said you guys are gods too. You are gods too. And so you start to realize what Jesus Christ was saying. He was saying, yes, I am the Son of God, but also you are sons of God. And because you are sons of God, you are gods yourselves. And this is what people don't understand about the words of Jesus Christ. And they almost negate that. A lot of Christianity negates that Jesus Christ would say that, because they want to keep it corrupt. And but in essence, guys, what true Christians want to do is be one with God. And it has nothing to do with anything worldly like the Vikings. The Vikings wanted to keep doing war, but true Christians, they just want to be one with God. They want to connect back to the monad, or to the one, to God. And of course, then we got the Muslims, to where if you kill or die in the name of Allah, you get, what is it, 72 not wives, virgins that you could have sex with every night. And so you start to see the mentality of each one of these is very different, and their end goal kind of tells you what these people are thirsty for the most. Some people are craving women, some people are craving war, and other people just want to escape this realm, this reality, and be one with something greater than them. And listen, but in my opinion, if I had to choose, right, I would definitely choose Christianity. I think Christianity, moving forward, I think that's the one we need to choose. Personally, I think that's the one. Now, of course, there's some things that we have to not believe anymore. Like, I don't want to get into it right now, but there are some things in Christianity that are not necessarily good. And the good thing about the Bible is that there is change within the Bible. If you read the Bible, guys, God himself, the God of the Bible, changes his mind several times, even though he says he doesn't. He makes mistakes several times. And there's a before and after Jesus, right? And it contradicts itself several times. And I could get into it in another time. I don't want to get into it right now, but the reason Christianity is better is because it shows the ability to change, and the ability to move forward, and the ability to do things different. One of the best examples is we didn't used to eat meat. It wasn't allowed for people that followed God, because there were certain Christians back then, to not eat meat. And then after they were allowed to eat meat, and then after they were allowed to eat only certain meats, and then later they were allowed to eat everything, just as long as it wasn't a sacrifice to anything. And that's where we're at now. Okay, so that's just one example. There's several other examples, and that's why I want to tell people, like, following these rules that were meant for another age, another time, and trying to put them to today is a mistake. I do not think gay people are evil and they should be stoned to death like the Bible says. I don't think a person that is logical and that has a mind of a modern human should think that either. That's just my opinion. But of course, there's going to be a lot of you people out there that are full of hate, and you're going to just find people to hate regardless. So that's good, whatever. But why is there animism here?